Hi everyone, welcome back so soon. We're going to be joined by Ria Store in just a moment. I just want to we'll welcome her first and then I'll tell you how this is going to work. Ria Store, hi. Can you
Hello.
hear?
Hi.
Can you hear
Can you
us,
hear me?
Ria?
Yes, yes.
I think it's just more that we can't hear you. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Loud and clear. Can you hear us? Yeah?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes. Or can you see me, Ria? Can you see me? No. You watching? No. Okay. Okay, but you can hear me. So Ria, hi, I'm Melanie. Pleased to meet you. One of the programmers here, and I'm here with our audience. So before we go any further, can we just say congratulations to Restore on her world premiere of Madness Remixed? Yeah, congratulations. Thank you so much for the film. If you just bear with me a second, Ria, I'm just going to let the audience know how it is that they can ask you questions directly. So, hi. If you go to slido.com, on your phones, if 3G, 4G doesn't work, you should be able to connect to Showroom's internet, like Showroom's Wi-Fi, which is free. You might have to give them your email address if it's the first time you're logging in, but it should be free. And then if you go to like the hashtag 512395. Then you can submit questions either anonymously or you can put your name in if you like. They will come up on my tablet and I'll read them out for you. Okay. So, Ria, let me just start. Thank you again for sharing this super interesting, super vibrant film with us. Real pleasure to have it in the program. And I just wanted to start by asking you to tell us a bit more about Josephine Baker, what she meant for you and for this film.
Yeah, thank you for showing my work in the festival. I'm really happy to be able to show this work because it brought up so many questions for me about Josephine Baker's life and really how I can position what she did within um, kind of pop culture and black female performers today. So Josephine Baker was a performer. She was also a singer, although she thought her voice was weak and was a bit self-conscious about it. She was a dancer. She was also an activist and during the war, and she fostered a lot of children in the end. So um, a whole kind of range of hats that she was wearing and very charismatic by all accounts throughout. So the particular performance that I was focusing on was a performance that she did in the 20s called, it's called La Danse Sauvage, I guess, um, exactly translated as like a savage dance. Um, but it was part of a whole performance called La Folie du Jour, or the Madness of the Day, in Paris. So she was an African American woman, biracial, and moved to Paris. Um, a lot of the audiences in the US thought that her performances were too sensational, and so she kind of found her footing, or like initial fame, in Paris.
To what extent was she the starting point for the film, or for you, does the story kind of start elsewhere? Like, where did the kind of idea for Madness Remixed originate from exactly? At what point?
Well, I saw people wearing the banana skirt that she wore in this particular performance, um, but much later on, like contemporaries, and it really interested me because I wondered why that image in particular was being replicated, given that um, the bananas, the jungle vines that surround her, the um, characters that surround her, the black man who plays the drums behind her. It's completely playing into this stereotype of black bodies as being exoticized, as perhaps quote unquote primitive, and so that's kind of fine in its historical context. It's of its time. It makes sense with the attitudes of that time. Although I prefer it not to have been that way, but um, it has a historical moment or meaning. But to then see the banana skirt today, for instance, Beyonce wore it in 2006 in a performance at Fashion Rocks. Beyonce wore, not Beyonce, Miley Cyrus wore it to advertise one of her recent albums, and Diana Ross has worn it too. And it's performed quite a lot in burlesque. So I wanted to kind of ask, why is this image continuing to be replicated seemingly without much question, when its origins is in a kind of way of thinking or ideology that really isn't something that we want to be replicating today.
Um, it really feels like we're kind of rewatching these images with all of these questions right out there in the open through this work. And I am curious also as to like your kind of approach to like the remixing. So what, yeah, I guess kind of if you could talk us through a little bit your process in terms of the kind of like various layering and the kind of texturing that you've brought with the images of Josephine Baker, and essentially kind of, yeah, this idea behind the remix.
Well, I didn't want to replicate that image wholesale and didn't want to use it at all at first, but I think not even talking about the image or not showing the image somehow didn't really get to the crux of what I wanted to talk about. I think there's something very stark about seeing that image, for instance, and seeing a more recent image um, of Beyonce, or hearing someone today talk about cultural appropriation. And so that's why I think that the idea of remixing speaks really well to what I'm interested in. Thinking too about diaspora and the movement of peoples, of cultures, and that often that is quite fragmented. And the only way to make it really make sense, at least to me as as an individual making the film, is by mixing things together. And what kind of structures that for me is often rhythm and sound and layering and sampling of voices. Um, so there are samples from a group that was formed um, in London during the pandemic, I believe, about talking about issues to do with race. And there's samples from them, and there's um, a kind of sort of retelling of some dialogue from a podcast where a burlesque performer is talking about making the decision not to perform in the banana skirt anymore. And then there's also this glitter and latex that I've optically printed, which to me forms a kind of like resist, from having to see that image of Josephine Baker, as well as archive footage. Josephine Baker in Siren of the Tropics, where she comes to Paris to perform. It's very close, but not really at all her story. And so there's a kind of slippage between fact and fiction there as well. And Siren of the Tropics is very much about how she's read and the readability of her body. So a lot of the mixing element has to do with exactly that, how readable I want the image or the film to be, and how I can kind of like play with an audience and play with how much is revealed to them or they get to know.
And just expanding on that, we've got a question from the audience that's specifically about the music, whether or not you created it, or whether or not the music was created first for the film or it was chosen. You talked a bit about some of the samples that you used, and you said that you were very kind of guided by rhythm as being one of the kind of guiding forces through the film. So yeah, if you could tell us a bit more about the approach to the music in the film.
Yeah, I wanted there to be a kind of tension. So especially the beginning, the kind of um, building of like a symbol. Um, I wanted it to be quite performative and sort of playful, like the way in which Josephine Baker's performances were constructed. So I guess it's created to create kind of ebb and flow or kind of periods of um, interest or um, explosiveness and periods that are a little bit quieter. Um, but towards the end, when the film concentrates more on labour and kind of the labour behind uh, like plantation labour, basically, and kind of making a comparison between that and um, Josephine Baker's performances as cultural work, I was focusing on sounds which sound like machines or sounds which might evoke repetition or machinery. The idea that something's being produced, but it's not necessarily got a human hand in it, which I think is very easy to do through sampling because you can reproduce computer generated sound. So all of the soundtrack is samples that I've pieced together. There's nothing that um, I've made nothing from scratch, but there's also nothing that I've just taken wholesale from anywhere, and that's kind of important to me because it structures how the kind of cuts, how I'm revealing things, how the attention is held by someone watching the film.
Much, Ria. I'm afraid I think that's all we've got time for. We're going to have to leave it there. But thank you so much for sharing your film with us. Again, congratulations on Madness Remixed. Thank you.
Thanks so much for inviting me.
Thanks so much for joining us virtually, Ria.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone for your questions. So we'll go straight into Court now by Nicola May, and we'll be back afterwards for a Q&A. So again, be thinking of what it is you want to ask and we'll do the same again. All right, thank you.